There are wounds we don't remember asking for, tears we never saw coming, pain that felt too precise to be random, and yet, when we step beyond the veil of ordinary perception, something ancient begins to whisper. Not all soulmates come wrapped in warmth. Some arrive with storms, and still they are soulmates. I have often sat in silence with souls who carried questions like burdens. Why did they come into my life just to leave? Why did it hurt so much? Why did love feel like a lesson carved in stone, rather than a soft embrace? The answers are never linear. They are woven in a language the soul speaks, but the mind resists. The language of karmic purpose, of lessons coded in connection. Brian Weiss, through his journeys into past lives and the vast architecture of the soul, taught us that relationships are never accidents. They are appointments, agreements made in realms beyond time. Before we are born, we choose. We choose our mothers, our lovers, our betrayals, not as punishment, but as the most intricate choreography of growth. When we look into the eyes of someone who shatters us, we are not meeting a stranger. We are confronting a memory, a soul we've known across lifetimes, now playing a different role, offering a different mirror. Sometimes love teaches us joy. Sometimes it teaches us strength through sorrow. But always it teaches. The soul does not judge experiences as good or bad. That is the mind's domain. The soul seeks expansion, depth, remembrance, and pain, when faced with presence and stillness, can be a catalyst more powerful than any pleasure. It breaks the ego, exposes illusions, and reveals the sacred longing to return to wholeness. You were never abandoned, even when they left, even when the goodbye was sudden or cruel or silent. That soul was honoring a contract. Perhaps they came only to trigger something dormant in you, a memory, a wound, a truth, and once their role was complete, their departure was not a betrayal. It was release. There are beings who will love you gently, over years and lifetimes, and then there are those who love you by unraveling everything you believed about yourself. Both are sacred, both are divine. But the ones who teach through pain leave the deepest imprints, not because they harmed you, but because they awakened something ancient in you. Brian Weiss reminds us, the soul is eternal, and so are its companions. The ones who hurt you now may have once been your parent, your child, your guide, in another life, another world. When you expand your vision beyond this single incarnation, forgiveness becomes not just possible, but inevitable. You begin to see the intricate beauty in the wound, the echo of purpose in the heartbreak. This is not about excusing abuse or romanticizing suffering. No, this is about reclaiming your power through awareness. It is about seeing that nothing truly happens to you. Everything happens for you. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, weaves pain and grace into the same thread and asks only that you witness both with open eyes. You are not broken because someone left. You are becoming. You are remembering the strength you came here to embody and the soul who hurt you. Perhaps they loved you enough before birth to agree to play the villain, just so you could rise. Some soulmates aren't meant to stay. They are meant to open, to fracture the shell of comfort so your spirit can breathe. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it. What if the person who hurt you most once cradled you in another lifetime? What if the ache you feel today is not the beginning of pain, but the continuation of a long, sacred echo? In the quiet between lives, Brian Weiss teaches, we meet again. Souls gather not in chaos, but in clarity. There, in the stillness before birth, we see the full tapestry. We understand the pain that will come, the beauty we will forget, the agreements we will honor. And even then we say yes, because the soul, in its infinite wisdom, values growth above comfort. The ones who come to teach us pain are often our oldest companions. Their love for us transcends form and affection. It is a fierce soul-level devotion to our awakening. They do not come to break us, but to break the illusion of who we thought we were. Their presence, though jagged and brief, stirs something long asleep. This is not a concept to be understood with the mind. It is a remembrance that lives in the heart. When you close your eyes and breathe into the pain, you may sense it, a faint familiarity, a recognition that confuses and soothes. It is the soul acknowledging an old friend in a new disguise. Our suffering becomes sacred when we no longer see it as meaningless. Every heartbreak, every silence, every unresolved ending is a doorway, not into bitterness, but into self, into the places within us that were waiting to be revealed, and often it takes the friction of another to bring us there. Brian Weiss's patients in deep regression often remembered lifetimes where roles were reversed. The abuser becomes the victim, the parent becomes the child, the lover becomes the enemy, and always underneath the shifting roles there is learning, evolution, the karmic dance of giving and receiving, hurting and healing. Can you feel the depth of that truth? That perhaps the person who betrayed you was once your protector? That the bond remains unbroken by time, even when severed in this life? This understanding doesn't erase the pain, but it reframes it. It lifts it from the realm of chaos into the sacred. We are not here to avoid discomfort. We are here to transform through it. The ones who push us toward the edge are often the ones we trusted most before we were born. Not because they would treat us kindly, but because they would help us remember who we really are, beyond fear, beyond identity, beyond dependence. When you look at your past through the lens of soul memory, the story softens. The villains lose their masks. The suffering gains a glow of purpose. And you, standing in the middle of it all, emerge not as a victim but as a witness to a deeper unfolding. Pain, when honored, becomes a teacher. It shows us where we abandoned ourselves, where we gave our power away, where we stopped listening to our inner voice. And those who caused that pain, they may have been mirrors, not of who we are, but of what we are ready to transcend. There is a beauty in pain remembered. In wounds seen through the eyes of eternity, it reveals that the soul's journey is not linear but spiral, always returning, always deepening, always inviting us to see with more compassion, more clarity. You are not lost. You are circling back to a truth you've always known, that love is not always gentle, but it is always intentional. And those who cracked you open were never outside your path. They were the ones who made it visible. There is a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It lingers. It hums beneath the surface of your days, coloring your thoughts, echoing in the silence. And sometimes it carries the face of someone you once trusted, someone you once loved. But when the soul begins to awaken, that pain becomes something more than just hurt. It becomes a guide. Brian Weiss revealed through countless regressions that souls often incarnate together, again and again, shifting roles to support one another's growth. The mother becomes the son, the friend becomes the foe, the soulmate becomes the stranger who leaves you. And in every exchange there is teaching. Pain in this context is not the opposite of love. It is one of its most intense expressions, the kind that shakes you awake, tears down illusions, and strips away every layer that is not truth. And the souls who bring that pain, they are not your enemies. They are initiators, threshold keepers, catalysts in disguise. Have you noticed how some wounds never fully leave you? How some moments feel impossibly dense, as if they carry more weight than their time suggests? That's because they are echoes, ripples from a soul contract. Moments loaded with the energy of past encounters, unresolved karma, and the whisper of something unfinished. We are not taught to honor this kind of knowing. We are taught to move on, to let go, to numb. But the soul does not forget. It stores what is unintegrated, and the only way out is into the pain, into the story, into the sacred unraveling. Some soulmates come to hold us, others come to haunt us, and still both are teachers, both are mirrors. One shows us what love can feel like, the other shows us what love is not, so that we may recognize the truth of it more clearly. There is profound power in no longer needing to label an experience as wrong, in seeing the heartbreak not as a detour, but as the path itself, in accepting that your soul may have needed the rupture to remember its wholeness. Brian Weiss's work offers us this, that every encounter is rich with unseen depth. That behind every goodbye there may be 1,000 lifetimes of history. That behind every betrayal there may be a soul who loved you enough to play that role, because it was the only way to break you open to your own divinity. This doesn't mean we stay in cycles of harm. It means we learn to walk away with grace, not resentment, with understanding, not bitterness. We begin to see our pain as sacred material, clay for our evolution, and those who cause it as sculptors we once invited in. There is something liberating in realizing you do not need to hate those who hurt you. You can thank them, not from the surface of the mind, but from the depth of the soul. You can recognize the role they played and release the bond with reverence, not regret. Your soul came here to feel everything. The The joy, the sorrow, the loss, the love. And in feeling fully, you become whole again. You peel back the layers of resistance, and in their place you find wisdom, strength, compassion that no longer needs an apology to be born. In this journey, the soulmates who brought you pain leave the deepest gifts, not wrapped in comfort, but in clarity. And as you unwrap them, you will find parts of yourself you had long forgotten. You are not who you were before the pain. You are more awake, more tender, more infinite, and that was always the point. Before we entered this life, we sat in stillness, pure consciousness without form. There, beyond the veil of the physical, we saw with perfect clarity. We understood our fears, our longings, our karmic weight, and with that awareness, we chose the souls who would walk with us. Not all of them would stay, not all would be kind, but all would serve the sacred plan. It is easy to forget this agreement when pain strikes, when someone leaves abruptly, when love turns to silence, but forgetting does not mean the contract is void. It means the lesson has begun. Brian Weiss speaks of this moment between lives as one of immense wisdom. In that realm, surrounded by guides and soul companions, we do not choose ease, we choose evolution. And so we often invite the very souls who will challenge us most. Not to punish, but to refine. Not to harm, but to awaken. What if the one who left you broken did so not out of cruelty, but because you asked them to? What if, from the perspective of the soul, that pain was the exact frequency you needed to shed an identity that no longer served you? When you sit with that possibility, something shifts. The blame begins to dissolve, the rage softens into curiosity, and in its place a deeper question arises. Who was I before the wound, and what part of me is being asked to return now? Pain has a way of hollowing us out, but that hollow space is sacred. It is where the light enters, where new truth emerges, and often we need someone to trigger that hollowing, to touch the precise place within us that is ready to be seen. The soul recognizes this, even when the mind resists. It knows that growth rarely comes through comfort. It comes through rupture, through letting go, through walking into the unknown without answers. And it knows that the souls who bring us to that edge are not enemies. They are initiators. This is not a philosophy of passivity. It is a path of conscious remembrance. It is the practice of seeing beyond appearances, beyond judgment, into the subtle architecture of destiny. And in that seeing, we reclaim something profound, the power to shape our healing. Brian Weiss reminds us that we carry within us the memory of every life, every choice, every soul we have ever touched. It lives in the subconscious, in dreams, in the spaces between our thoughts. And sometimes it rises, uninvited, undeniable, through the face of someone we meet and instantly recognize, even if we don't know why. These are the soulmates who feel like home, even when they destroy it, because at some level, they are home. They are pieces of the puzzle we left scattered across time, now returning to wake us up. You may never hear them say sorry. You may never see them again. But that does not diminish their role. The soul does not need closure, it needs awareness. And with awareness, even the most painful encounter becomes holy. You came here to remember your power, your light, your eternal nature. And if it took losing someone to see it, then perhaps they loved you enough to disappear. This is the paradox of soul contracts. The ones who hurt us are sometimes the ones who loved us most in the space between lifetimes, and their exit, painful as it is, was always part of the design. Let that truth settle in your body. Let it dissolve the chains of blame, and in its place allow compassion to rise, not just for them, but for yourself, because you too played your role, and you did it with courage.